Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amna Girl from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at CAST. We're back with the course Communication Theories 2, bearing the code GMC 312. It's our 11th lecture, and the topic today is theoretical paradigms. It's part 3 because it's a continuation of the previous lectures. We've already studied some of the paradigms, and we'll continue with these, and hopefully we'll be finishing the paradigms today. We've been through with empirical laws paradigm, which stated that there are universal laws that govern how we communicate. Then we studied human rules paradigm, which actually reflects that we follow shared rules of communication, not strict laws. So it's as opposed to empirical laws. Then in our last lecture, we studied systems paradigm, which said everything is interconnected. In this lecture, we'll be starting with rhetorical paradigm, followed by critical paradigm. So let's start with that. Rhetorical theories paradigm. Rhetoric is the oldest tradition of the communication field. A good definition of rhetoric is any kind of human symbol used that function in any realm, public, private, and anything in between. Do you remember that one of our definitions of theory was a way of framing an experience or event, an effort to understand and account for something and the way it functions in the world? Now, if we combine these two definitions, it allows us to understand the rhetorical theories paradigm as a way to understand and account for the way any kind of human symbol use functions in any realm. Scholars have historically used rhetorical theories as a way to produce and evaluate messages. So if we put it very simply, rhetorical theories paradigm is actually a way to produce messages as well as a way to evaluate messages. So it's done for that case. In case of us being scholars of mass communication, we actually use a rhetorical theories paradigm to actually evaluate messages, because as scholars, as in the academia, we're not much into the production thing. You still can apply it in the production process as well if you understand it well, because you do a lot of productions as well. Okay, so let's start off with message production first. See, you do have taken a course in public speaking, so you were likely exposed to rhetorical theories of message production. In public speaking classes, students are taught methods for organizing presentations, building credibility with the audience, and making messages more entertaining, informative, or maybe even persuasive. You probably intuitively understand that there are effective ways for putting together messages. But how do you know what is truly effective or ineffective? Whether you are preparing a public presentation, an advertising campaign, or trying to persuade a friend, rhetorical theories guide the ways you produce messages. Companies devote millions of dollars to produce the advertisements that we see on media. You can bet that significant research has gone into what messages will work the best so that they do not waste their money in ineffective advertising. So audience analysis, context, goals, etc. all are considered before producing and delivering these messages. Over the centuries, communication scholars have devoted entire careers studying what it takes to produce effective messages. Aristotle gave us his ideas of ethos, which is credibility, logos, which is logic, and pathos, which is emotions, as fundamental components for constructing persuasive messages. Cicero gave us the 5 canons of rhetoric, or the 5 necessary steps for putting together an effective message. I hope you have been through with ethos, logos, and pathos. Even if you have not been through it, I'll be sharing some of the stuff which will help you out with that. For a journal understanding, ethos is all about the credibility of the speaker, of the communicator. Logos is the use of logic to persuade someone. Pathos is the use of emotions, once again, for persuasion. So ethos, logos, pathos, all are meant for persuasion, for constructing persuasive messages. Let's come to the current era. In the modern era, Stephen Tallman developed the Tallman Model, as it's mentioned here, as a means for constructing persuasive arguments. Tolman's model of message production includes a claim, grounds, warrant, backing, model qualifier, and rebuttal. I'll explain each one of these, and you can see these in the figure as well. The claim is the conclusion or argument being made. The grounds are the data and facts offered to support the claim. See, if there is a claim, there is a statement, there is an argument, there is a claim being made. It is being made on certain grounds. Those grounds are the data or the facts that support that claim. In order to logically connect the grounds to the claim, a warrant is given, which is logical connection between claim and grounds. The backing is used to support the warrant, and the qualifiers make a statement about the strength of the claim. Words such as possible, certainly, and definitely are examples of qualifiers. Any exception to the claim is the rebuttal. Even if you are unfamiliar with the rhetorical theories of message production, you likely have a good idea of what makes an effective message. For Tolman, effectiveness was based on issues of practicality. To find a claim that is of interest to the people and the ability to justify it. The greater understanding you have of rhetorical devices or rhetorical theories of message production, the greater potential you have for producing effective messages in a variety of contexts, as it is mentioned here as well. I've mentioned it here for you to jot it down as well. Let's take the example of cricket. Yes, cricket is very much famous in Pakistan. See, Cricket World Cup is a final day that many people gather together to watch a big cricket match on television. It is also a day that many people give special attention to watching commercials as well. It has become a popular pastime for people to evaluate and for people to evaluate the quality of commercials shown during the World Cup. In fact, there are many advertisements or commercials that are put up on the World Cup day. That is the first time it's being put up for audience viewership. So all the commercials from the World Cup are even put on the internet for people to watch and evaluate. Many people spend a considerable amount of time discussing the effectiveness of commercials. I, being one of these people, I usually tend to discuss commercials, whichever hits me, whichever strikes me more. So those who engage in these conversations are, at a basic level, engaging in message evaluation. See, advertisement or commercials, these are also messages. And you remember in our last semester, we have been through a discussion of advertisements. So if you make a comment, for example, about these commercials, such as, that was funny, or that was stupid, you're using some kind of criteria to come to those conclusions. A person approaching these messages using rhetorical theories would ask, why was that funny, or why was that stupid? In other words, what works or doesn't work about certain messages. So that is message evaluation. There are many ways we can use rhetorical theories to evaluate messages. We might choose to use a feminist, an ideological, or a narrative approach to evaluate message effectiveness. For example, Kenneth Burke argues that we can evaluate messages by understanding them as a dramatic play. He contends that all messages contain acts, scenes, agents, purposes, and agencies. If you were to evaluate your relationships with your friends from this perspective, who are the agents? What is the scene? And what act of the play are you in? Jean Bullard states that we can evaluate messages from the perspective that messages are commodities that we exchange, whereas Michael Foucault asserts that we can evaluate messages by looking at how power is enacted in them. Rhetorical theories give us different lenses for us to understand messages. No interpretation is right or wrong. Keep in mind, not any single interpretation can be taken as right or wrong. Instead, each interpretation allows us to have a more comprehensive understanding of communication. As with message production, we are constantly in the process of evaluating messages that are sent and received by us. The greater understanding you have of rhetorical theories for both putting together and evaluating messages, the greater potential you have to be an effective communicator in a variety of contexts. For rhetorical theorists, the message is the primary focus of inquiry when approaching the study of communication. Now, this is very different from the last three paradigms that we have discussed. This one focuses totally on messages. Either it is the production process of the message or it is the evaluation of the message. In both cases, it is this thing. Since you have been through a course in advertising, and since you have already been through rhetoric as well, so for that matter, I'll be sharing with you a rhetorical analysis of an advertisement. The advertisement is of Audi. I hope you know the car manufacturer, and the advertisement is titled as Daughter. Let's watch that advertisement, then we'll go through its rhetorical analysis. It's not from your research point of view, but it's journally an analysis so that you get to understand how things are put together, what works and what does not work, how we can challenge different things that come our way. So let's have a look at the commercial. So we'll start off with the commercial first, we'll go through it, and then it would be followed by the rhetorical analysis. I'll appreciate that you watch it closely and observe if you can yourself think where you can find ethos, where you can find pathos, and where you can find logos. For that matter of fact, ethos was credibility, logos was the use of logic, and pathos was the use of emotions. I hope you remember that now. So just check out, can you find these things in here? I'll pause after the advertisement finishes so that you can point it out, but start jotting down.
What do I tell my daughter? Do I tell her that her grandpa's worth more than her grandma? That her dad is worth more than her mom? Do I tell her that despite her education, her drive, her skills, her intelligence, she will automatically be valued as less than every man she ever meets? Or maybe I'll be able to tell her something different.
Audi's new commercial.
So, did you find it touching, Wes? I always find it touching. And I'm still concerned how it all works out, why the father is asking all these questions, and how does it relate. Did it make you curious as well? Okay, let's go through the rhetorical analysis and we'll sort these things out.
Commercials have a gender equality message with their new hashtag Drive Progress and is said to bring more progressive messages. This one, called Daughter, was released at the 2017 Super Bowl.
What do I tell my daughter?
A rhetorical question to emphasize the current gender inequity, and a popular question from those disappointed by the 2016 election. His daughter is shown competing with all boys, showing that she lives in a man's world, and that's not always fair.
Do I tell her that her grandpa's working her grandma?
The importance of a male narrator is that he relates to the targeted audience, fathers with daughters, and if a woman were to narrate, the message would be stigmatized.
That her dad is worth more than her mom?
The father asked to provoke thought and understanding about gender inequity.
Do I tell her that despite her education, her drive, her skills, her intelligence, she will automatically be valued as less than every man she ever meets?
The boy's giving her a hard time with the use of the father's rhetorical question is using pathos to provoke sympathy for his daughter, who will be valued less than men. The car industry is male-dominated, especially car racing. By showing her winning, Audi is attempting to break down gender stereotypes around car industries.
Or maybe I'll be able to tell her something different.
This is a subtle call for change for a progressive future. Audi is proving their credibility in using ethos by committing to equal pay for equal work and is relating to Hillary Clinton's women's rights campaign. This commercial was aired during the Super Bowl halftime to target a wide variety of viewers, including fathers with daughters and people who support gender equality. Audi used ethos by hiring Etha McArdle, a female director. Directing is another male-dominated profession. Hiring a woman exercises Audi's commitment to equal pay for equal work.
Tell me honestly, have you ever wondered so much goes into the production of the messages that we view as advertisements? See, there was so much behind everything. For example, in the very starting, when you see the boys making these fierce gestures, actually, it was showing how men are, or masculinity is associated with strength, and how that is the accepted behavior. For example, everyone giving negative messages to the other. So this is like with every single thing that is done in an advertisement, or in this particular case, everything is pre-planned, that what works and what doesn't work. For example, this was aired in 2017. In 2016 elections, it was Hillary Clinton who contested, and in that case it was also a reflection of that thing as well. So there are so many things that are at play. The whole concept, for example, using a male dominated profession, and then using a girl winning a race. Car racing is clearly male dominated. So there are so many things that go into the message production. We just used the example of advertisement, but the same is the case with, for example, everything you watch on the media, be those specifically entertainment media, because it's well planned what works and what doesn't work, how to make your message more effective or more persuasive. Now let's move towards the strengths of rhetorical theories paradigm. See, the primary strength of rhetorical theories paradigm is its ability to help us produce and evaluate effective messages. So that is obviously a great strength because mass communication is all based on messages. So it gives us the ability or the capability to produce and to evaluate what an effective message is. Rhetorical theories provide a way for us to take context into consideration when we examine messages. In this case, for example, the advertisement that we just saw, the context was 2016 elections where Hillary Clinton contested. And then certain other things, for example, car racing being a male-dominated profession and other things like that. So, unlike empirical laws theories, rhetorical theories highlight the importance of considering context as essential for understanding messages. Finally, rhetorical theories provide a way for us to foster multiple perspectives in the evaluation and construction of messages. This is very much important for any advertisement, even though we just had a linear rhetorical analysis, but actually people tend to see things differently. For example, Audi is criticized for not having any women in its high management roles. So for that matter, for example, it was also criticized. So there are multiple perspectives in the evaluation as well as in the construction of messages. Now, a primary weakness of rhetorical theories comes from one of its strengths. With such an intense focus on messages, it is possible to overlook alternative interpretations of messages. Also, some theories of message evaluation are not critical enough to reveal, for example, power dynamics at work in message exchanges. So finally, rhetorical theories are often not generalizable across a variety of communication contexts. While some rhetorical theories can be generalized, rhetorical theories are most often highly contextualized. Since they are contextual, so it depends on the context, and in that case, those are not universal or generalizable. So that is a flaw of a rhetorical theories paradigm. With this, we are done with the rhetorical theories paradigm, and now we move towards another one. See, at this point, you have learned about 4 different theoretical paradigms we use to understand communication. Now, one problem with these approaches is they often lack an explicit critique of the status quo of communication. Let me put it another way. They serve as a general approach to understand communication norms rather than challenge them. We all realize that there are communication realities in the world that are hurtful and oppressive to particular people, and that there are people in the world that use communication to serve their own needs and interests. Now, how do we bring these communicative practices to light and work to exchange communicative practices that are hurtful? Here comes critical theories paradigm. The critical theories paradigm helps us understand how communication is used to oppress and provides ways to foster positive social change. Yes, communication is used to oppress, and this paradigm actually understands how it is done so, and it actually works towards positive social change. Critical theories challenge the status quo of communication contexts, looking for alternatives to those forms of oppressive communication. These theories differ from other theoretical approaches because they seek praxis as the overarching goal. Praxis is actually the combination of theory and action. So rather than simply seeking to understand power structures, critical theories actively seek to change them in positive ways. Easily identifiable examples of critical approaches are Marxism, postmodernism, and feminism. These critical theories expose and challenge the communication of dominant social, economic, and political structures. Areas of inquiry include language, social relationships, organizational structures, politics, economics, media, cultural ideologies, interpersonal relationships, labor, and other social movements. Now, cultural studies focus on understanding the real life experiences of people, examining communication contexts for hidden power structures, and accomplishing positive social change as a result. Cultural studies involves three interconnected elements necessary for understanding, evaluating, and challenging the power dynamics embedded in communication. The three are political economy, textual analysis, and audience reception. Political economy focuses on the macro level of communication. Specifically, this part of cultural studies looks at the way media as text are situated in any given cultural context and the political and economic realities of the cultural context. In the US, we would note that the political economy is one marked with gender, racial, and class inequities, as we just saw in the Audi advertisement. Textual analysis involves the process of deconstructing and analyzing elements of a media text. If you want to look at a magazine with a critical eye, you would pay attention to the visual elements, for example, the pictures in the ads, the celebrity photos, and other drawings, cartoons, or illustrations. The verbal messages, which is the text of the ads, the copy, captions that accompany the photographs, and the relationship between the advertisements and the copy. For example, is there an ad for clinic eyeshadow next to an article on the hot new beauty tips for summer? You would also want to pay attention to the representation of gender, race, and class identities as well. Are there any differences or similarities between the portrayal of white women and women of color? What sort of class identity is being offered as the one to emulate? Audience reception asks us to consider the role of the text for the audience that consumes it. You might want to learn why people read particular magazines. What purpose does it fill? What is the social function of that text? Have you ever wondered how these theories relate to practical life? Well, whether we listen to music on our phones, we watch TV, we go to the movies, or read a magazine, most of us consume media. Have you ever stopped to think about who puts together those messages? Have you wondered what their goals might be and what they want to, and why they want to send the messages they do? One way we can use critical theories is to examine who owns what media to determine what they are trying to accomplish. For example, why does General Electric want to own companies like RCA, Radio Corporation of America, or NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation? What worldviews are these companies creating in the media they produce? So this is the case of media conglomerates. Let's check the example of Pakistan. In case of Pakistan, Independent Media Corporation is one of Pakistan's largest media conglomerates. It started with the publication of the Jung group of newspaper and later added the Geo Television network to its offering. Its publications and channels include, the Daily Jung, the News International, Akhbar-e-Jahan, Mag and Akhbar-e-Jahan, both are weekly magazines. One is in Urdu, one is in English, and they have a large circulation. And it also has many TV channels like Geo News, Arc TV, Geo Super, Geo TV, Geo Kahani. So now this is a media conglomerate. There's so much information being sent by actually one corporation. See, at the back of it, it's Independent Media Corporation, which is running so many print, so many publications as well as channels as well. Similarly, we have Naviva Group, Dawn Media Group, and Express Media Group in Pakistan. So these are the media conglomerates. If we talk about the international setup, all these questions for which we might consider using theories from the critical theories paradigm. Did you know that in 1983 there were 50 corporations controlling most of the US media, like papers, television, movies, magazines, etc., and that by 2004 that number had dropped down to 5 corporations. Like by 2004, only 5 corporations were controlling most of the US media. Using critical theories paradigm, we can begin to examine the messages that so few companies are constructing and their impacts on how we understand the world around us as shaped through these messages. Other examples from the critical paradigm include works that examine gender, consumerism, advertising, and television. So, we use critical theories to reveal a vast range of possible ideological structures that create and foster dominant worldviews, and to challenge and change those ideologies that oppress others. A significant strength of the critical theories paradigm is that it combines theory and practice, seeking to create actual change from theoretical development. Rather than seeking prediction and control or explanation and understanding, critical theories seek positive social change. The intent behind these theoretical perspectives is to help empower those whose worldviews and ideological perspectives have not found equality in social contexts. At their best, critical theories have the potential to enact large scale social change for both large and small groups of people. So, critical theories are very, very important to challenge the status quo, to challenge, to reveal how communication is used to oppress, how certain viewpoints are marginalized. A potential weakness of critical theories is their dependence on social values. While empirical laws theories seek an objective reality, critical theories highlight subjective values that guide communication behaviors. When values conflict, the question of whose values are better emerges. Because values are subjective, answering this question is often filled with much conflict and debate. That's all for today. See you next time. Allah Hafiz.